Are you at war with yourself because you see two sides to yourself and you're trying to eliminate one? If so, you're like most people that I talk to. Here's the thing. We all have this inside of ourselves. We all have light, and we have darkness, and we have it inside of ourselves. And we have to find a sense of harmony and peace with that. If you want to know more, stick around. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how you can find harmony with your inner self, with your own inner darkness. And I've got some things to talk about from my last live stream. Stick around. Let's get started. Welcome to the Serenity Journey. My name is James, and I help you find the pathway to inner peace. In my last live stream the other day, I got some feedback from some people about some things that I said. I was talking about letting go of judgment in your life. And I'm here to say I am sorry for some of the judgmental things that I said about religion. I'm not against religion. I just think that it has its place, but there becomes a point in your evolution, in your personal growth, where you outgrow the usefulness for it in your life. And I kind of outgrew that when I was about 19 years old. And ever since then, I've moved away from religion. I've been called a heretic. I've had to defend myself physically and defend my own life because I refuse to accept a dogmatic approach to life that comes from a lot of religious teachings. Now, this isn't to say that religions are bad people and that people that are religious are bad, but I just wanted to say that I maybe misphrased some things and as I was talking about my opinion on religious worldviews, while still also recognizing I have my own inner darkness. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about today. I have my own things inside myself that I'm still dealing with and I'm still learning to integrate into my life. I try to keep that stuff off of YouTube for the most part. Most people that know me from around the YouTubes know that I'm peace and light and love and saying good morning all the time. And yes, all the time. I know. I say good morning no matter what time of day it is. And there's a purpose behind that. It's because morning is a time for new beginnings. It's a time for new growth. It's a time to start over. And I just want people to always know it's always morning somewhere, so it's always a chance to start over. It's always a chance to have a new beginning, have a new perspective, have a new outlook on the way you're doing things. So that's why I say good morning all the time. But one of the things that we talked about in our last live stream is letting go of judgment. One of the keys to letting go of judgment of others is first we have to let go of judgment of ourselves. And this is where we start talking about integrating our dark side. When we talk about shadow work in the spiritual community, we're talking about finding that dark side inside of ourselves and integrating it into who we are. And this is part of the work I've been doing for the last several months. I'm integrating that dark aspect of myself. That's why I wear this t-shirt. It's one of my favorite shirts because one, the wolf is my teacher, but also it represents the light side and the dark side of all of us. And so that's why I wear this shirt all the time. It's one of my favorite t-shirts. It's getting a little holes in it and getting a little worn, so it's going to have to get retired soon, but that's the way it is. So one of the things I want you to realize as you start taking your journey towards inner peace is that you have a dark side inside of you. We all do. You have this dark side is the ego. It's part of the ego-based way of thinking. And I've seen a lot of videos where they talk about the death of the ego. From a lot of people that I admire and respect, by the way, there's a lot of great YouTubers here that talk about the death of the ego. But then you see these people talk about the death of the ego, and you see the evidence of their own ego in their own work. So they haven't experienced a full ego death either. They just may be not recognizing their own ego in their work. That's my opinion. I'm not here to trash what anybody else teaches. There's a lot of great YouTubers that's the one little piece of understanding the ego that I think we disagree on. Now, I also see the other side of the talk about the ego where we have to make ego our friend. Well, those of you that have been following me for a while from any of my other channels or anything know that there's one thing that I really think is one of the worst things that you can do, which is going to the extremes on either end. I don't believe the ego truly ever dies, but I don't think it's your friend either. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think that the ego is just this subconscious program that runs in your computer But if you've ever deleted some of those behind the scenes programs that make your computer run, the computer quits running. That's right. What happens when you delete the ego? You no longer stay attached to your body and you die. So unless you're ready to end your existence on this planet, I don't think you're ready to have a total death of the ego. I don't think that humanity has transcended the need for ego in our lives yet. But it's not your friend either. It's just a program running your life. Now what you can do is you become aware of the ego and where it's affecting your life, you can limit its effect in your life. You can downplay it, you can kind of put it to the side and learn how to work around it instead of allowing it to control you. And this is the key to understanding shadow work, because this is really what the shadow work that we do in spiritual circles is all about. It's about looking at our past experiences, which is what we call embracing the past, and it's about integrating those dark sides, those dark beliefs into our lives. It doesn't mean that we operate from those places, but we allow them in our lives. We allow them to have their place in our lives. One of the big mistakes that a lot of people have is they think it's all sunshine and roses when we're getting into spiritual awakening. And it's not. I've had a lot of darkness. In fact, since I started my own spiritual awakening, I've spent more time in the darkness than I have in the light. And it's because I was working on that shadow self. I was living out of that shadow self. I was trying to break free of that shadow self. And I've been working on integrating that shadow part of myself into my holistic view so that I can see both sides. I can see the light and I can see the dark in almost all situations. Now what we want to do is we want to acknowledge the shadow self, acknowledge the anger, the rage, the guilt, the shame, all those negative feelings. Acknowledge them when they come up, because they're there for a reason. They're there for a purpose, and they are there to serve you. They are not there to control you. They are there to serve you. And when you get the ego in the right place, it serves you rather than controlling you. What happens is when you're integrated into the darkness, and that's all you see, the ego controls you. It manipulates you. It guides you. And it forces you into a position of trying to control and manipulate others outside of you. So when you step back and you learn to integrate the ego, and you learn to integrate it, you get to a place where you can control it and it can serve you instead of hurting you. Now, this doesn't mean that we always listen to that part of ourselves. In fact, we have to learn how to separate ourselves. When I'm doing certain work with people, when I'm doing energy healing work, I have to separate myself from the ego. And I have to learn how to step outside of the ego while I'm doing that work. But the ego's still there. It's just I'm kind of I'm having a detachment from the ego. If you remember back in this video here, we talked about detachment and being attached to nothing. That detachment that we talked about is detachment from the ego, which is essential to your long-term spiritual growth. You have to experience detachment, but it's not a permanent detachment. Like I said, if you permanently detach and the ego dies, you die with it. So one of the other things that we want to do is, as we want to continue experiencing this life, we also want to make sure that we step beyond the ego. We acknowledge it, we recognize it, but then we move ourselves in vibration up the emotional scale into the higher levels of alignment with our spirit. See, on this side, you have the darkness and you have the alignment with your ego. On this side, you have the light, which is your alignment with your true self, your alignment with Source, your alignment with God. When you're in that alignment, this is where you want to act. This is where you want to make decisions. This is where you want to get to when you're working your way through things and coming to especially major decisions in your life. If you're in that dark side and you're manifesting from that dark side and you're making major decisions from that dark side, this is when we manifest chaos. This is when we manifest destructive behaviors into our lives. This is when we manifest destructive things from outside of us that come in and destroy our lives, is when we're in this darkness. When we step into the light and we make our manifestations in do our law of attraction work and do all that stuff from the light side, this is when we're able to manifest abundance, peace, harmony, joy, unconditional love. So we have to have a balance of the two. I don't like the toxic positive messages that some people get into when they start thinking, oh, we have to be all peace and love and light. I love being peace and love and light. I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think we should experience as much of that as we possibly can. But don't ignore your darkness. Don't deny the dark side of yourself, because that leads you into chaos. That leads you into a false positivity. This leads you down a dark path where you're pretending to walk in the light. And that's what a lot of people do. They pretend to walk in the light while they're really ingrained in their own darkness. But the ego is a trickster, and it tells you, hey, this isn't really dark. It's the light. When you truly get into the light, you will find calm. You will find peace. You will find serenity in that. True serenity, true peace. You will find connection with God. You will find connection with everyone and everything in your life. When you embrace this, you find a balance and a harmony, and you find peace in the harmony between the two. So I hope that this helps you to understand how to find that balance in your life just a little bit. And one of the things that you want to do is, again, look at the dark side, acknowledge the dark side, but get yourself back into that peaceful, contemplative state and go into silence. Going into meditation and into silence is one of the best places to go to find it. Also, journal about it. Journal about those feelings. Journal about those emotions and those feelings. And then write what you would like to feel instead. And that's going to help you to make that transition. So those are just a few things that I love to do myself that have helped me in the last few months as I've gone through it. I'm going through even deeper into how to do this in my work that I'm doing on how to embrace your past, which is where most of that dark side came from. Most of the dark shadow beliefs come from misunderstandings of your own past. So we're working on some content on how to embrace that past and how to integrate that into your life. I hope that this helps, and make sure you check out my next video right here. When it's live, we're going to have the link to it right here, and that video is going to be talking about how to don't die with your music still in you. It's Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, 10 Secrets to Success in Inner Peace. We're continuing that series. In fact, I just actually already recorded that video, but I'm going to need to edit and get it uploaded. As soon as it's done, you'll find it right here. And we're going to see you in that video. If you're new here and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you get all of our latest updates, and we'll see you in the next video.